Good evening, and welcome to another Scientific Baits podcast. This one's a blog. Rather than doing a written blog for October, we'll do a podcast. Lots been going on again in the world of carp fishing and bait. Not least, some of the things I've seen again written on the internet. Often seems to be a source of inaccurate information, shall we say. And the latest thing that I've seen being chatted about is salt, which is something that I've spoken about in the past. And most people seem to get the wrong idea completely about salt. So let's start at the simplest level. Obviously, everybody will know that using salt is something that there's quite a lot of anglers doing these days. There's quite a lot of big names talking about salt, and I do use salt, and most of my baits have got a salt element in them for various reasons. Now, what I'll talk about at first is what salt actually is. So when we're talking about salt, the technical term for salt is sodium chloride, and that's, if you like, common table salt, which is not really what you want to be using in bait or for this process that people are doing now, salting spots up and all the rest of it. Now, sodium chloride, as the name suggests, it's got sodium ions in and chloride ions. Now, these are what's known as electrolytes, and this is where all the stuff that you see written about salt all breaks down completely. Now, electrolytes are absolutely essential to every animal that's alive. Without electrolytes, you can't do muscle contractions, your heart won't beat properly, osmotic regulation in fish goes out the window. So they're very important. They're very, very important. But, and this is a big but, if they are very important to fish, then all this business about people saying that carp actively seek out salt really means that the carp are living in a precarious situation. And carp are not actively seeking salt out ever at any point, because the sodium and chloride ions that they need in the body and other elements like potassium, etc., calcium, they're always fairly abundant in any freshwater environment. So there's never any issue with the carp getting these into the body. So these people that are saying that carp actively seek salt out are talking rubbish, because a carp needs to have these electrolytes in its body or it's in serious problems. Now, you hear people talking about clay, and clay, carp are attracted to clay because there's salt in the clay. Well, 2 points here, really. Now, there may well be electrolytes in clay, and carp, as we all know, do rub themselves on clay. We've all seen carp covered in clay. Now, there's various reasons for this. I personally think it's they're rubbing on it because they like rubbing on it and it gets parasites off the body, etc. Now, it's actually scientifically impossible for a carp to absorb electrolytes from clay that's rubbed onto its body, because it's going against the concentration gradient. Because the concentration gradient of the electrolytes in the carp's bodily fluids will be higher than what's in the clay. It's basics. It's basics. So for anybody who's saying that carp absorb salt through clay, they're talking rubbish. Now, the carp actually gets all the electrolytes the sodium and the chloride in particular from the water via its gills. It's an active transport mechanism because it's going against the concentration gradients, because the concentration of the electrolytes in the water will be lower than what they are in the carp's body. So when people are talking about all this salt business and carp are seeking salt out at certain times of the year, I'm afraid to say, in my opinion, it's all a load of rubbish. Because carp needs salt, electrolytes. I mean, we shouldn't really say salt. We should say electrolytes. Carp need these all year round. Otherwise, they're in serious trouble. In fact, they've got no electrolytes in the body. They're going to be dead quite quickly. Now, as we move on, as we move on, now the practice that's in common usage now is using mineral salt. It's using mineral salt. Now, mineral salt is an entirely different animal than table salt. Table salt is basically sodium chloride. It's a refined salt, whereas mineral salt has got the sodium ions in there, the chloride ions, and then it'll also have lots of other elements in there. So you'll have things like potassium in there, iron, magnesium, phosphorus. Now, in my opinion, the reason why this process of salting spots is actually effective is because the mineral salt undergoes the same process to create attraction that happens with liquid flavors and essential oils. What actually happens is the other ions in the mineral salt start getting ionized. They start reacting with the water, and this ionization process occurs. Now, the carp can detect ionization through its chemoreceptors. So basically, the salt is working. So when people are saying they're getting carp gravitating towards these spots, they've got salt on them. It's because it's creating an attraction zone. Now, I've seen recently people doing tank tests with salt and tipping some salt into a tank and seeing that there's no reaction from the carp. Now, this is all well and good, but it's not a true reflection of what's actually happening. The temporal situation there is completely different, because once the salt is in the water, then the ionization process from the relevant elements in the salt is going to take a while to occur. So it's not going to send the carp into a frenzy as soon as it's tipped into the water, but a pile of it on the bottom of the lake or in the tank or whatever will eventually create a situation where the carp can detect this ionization. Now, this is my opinion, and much of it's backed up by science. So, for me, salt is definitely something that's it's definitely an avenue that's worth going down. Although I've not done any of this salting of spots, etc. Obviously, I'd had to have been asleep for the last God knows how many years, 15 years, if I wasn't aware of this process that people are doing, salting spots, using salt to create spots. And after a long time of thinking about it, my opinion is that the mineral salts, this pink Himalayan salt that people are using, the rock salt, my opinion is that it's creating an ionization hotspot, if you like, and this is what's drawing the fish to it. I mean, now there's another thing with salt. Various studies that I've seen over the years, scientific papers, there is a possibility that including salt in a bait particles or boilies, it can augment the chemoreceptive process. So the carp's detection of amino acids can be slightly augmented in the presence of salt. And I have seen scientific papers that give evidence towards this. So yeah, for me, the mineral salt thing, the rock salt thing, pink Himalayan, whatever you're using, whatever people are advocating, I think it works on this ionization process. Now, another thing that I can back this up with is, believe it or not, carp are attracted to old rusty poles and things that are in lakes. If you've ever fished a lake that's got a snag in, particularly one that's made of iron, and it's getting rusty, it's quite often the case that people do see carp hanging around these structures. And I fish lakes with old scaffolding poles and things, and the carp rub on them, and old diving board frames and things that carp rub on these when they're rusting. And obviously, when something's rusting, it's been ionized. So you've got this ionization process. And there was talk over the years that the carp can detect leads because we use lead weights. They're uncoated. And various people have said that they think that carp can detect the leads through this ionization process. Not really done a great deal of research into that, to be honest with you. But the same thing again, this ionization process, it's definitely something that carp can pick up on through the chemoreceptors. That's how they detect flavors and essential oils. In fact, all chemoreception works on ionization to different degrees. So, yeah, I mean, what I would say to anyone who's chatting about this salt thing, especially these guys on the internet, you need to do your own work first, and you need to basically get clear in your own mind what salt actually is, which is basically electrolytes. What's the role of electrolytes in the carp's body? Basically, they're essential. So why would carp, if carp had to seek these things out because it wasn't abundant in the environment, we'd all be going to lakes that hadn't got the right salinity or the right abundance of electrolytes in the water, and the carp would be dead. Well, I don't know about you, but I've never been to any lake yet where the carp have started dying because there isn't enough sodium and chloride in the water to support all the. It even supports neural pathways. It even supports nerve transmissions. So I've never been to a lake yet where I've seen a few fish dying and somebody said, "Oh yeah, there's not enough salt in the water." So yeah, there we go. That's basically as much as I really wanted to chat about with regard to this salt thing, because there's a lot of garbage written about it. I mean, a lot of these guys on the internet are heroes anyway. I think one of them who was trying to be an authority on this, I think he slagged me off a couple of times on the internet, but yeah, we'll not get into that. He won't be on his own. So yeah, there we go. If anybody wants any more information about salt or any references from the things that I've spoke about, just get in touch with me. Because as I say, you see so much nonsense written about this. I mean, it's impossible for a carp to absorb things against a concentration gradient. So even if there is salt and things in clay, when it's stripped across its body after it's been rubbing on a clay spot, the carp doesn't absorb anything whatsoever through its skin. They don't absorb any of the minerals from clay or the salt or whatever. It's impossible. This actually happens via an active process, like I've said, in the gills, and that's how it happens. So basically, in short, salt, electrolytes, critical for survival for all creatures, including carp. And in my experience and my knowledge, a carp will never be deficient in this in any lake that it lives in. I mean, we've got to remember the carp also is what's known as a stenohaline, which means they can only live in certain salinities. The carp can't really tolerate salt water for any period of time, although you do hear things about carp getting caught from estuaries and occasionally from the sea and stuff. But it's obviously it must be the correct salinity, and they can just survive there. Whereas you've got other fish like trout, they're known as euryhaline fish. They can make the transition from fresh water to salt water, no problem. It's all because they've got a different mechanism in the body to deal with it all. So without getting too heavy into the science, that's about the long and the short of it with regarding salt. Right. Now we've had that little chat about salt, I'll give my opinion on some of the garbage I've seen written on the internet by these silly people. I'd like to chat a little bit about some of the absolutely exceptional catches that anglers have had this year using my bait. As we all know, there's lots of instances where people can't publicize captures. So, from a business point of view, it's a little bit unfortunate when you can't publicize captures. Now, in the last month alone, I think there's been 340s to 48 caught by anglers using my bait. 150, 56.4, and 160 at 63.11. All English fish, all proper ones as well, not big stockies. So pretty phenomenal, really, for a small company like I am, because I don't sell loads of bait. Sell a lot more now since I've had the website, but don't sell tons and tons per month. So very small user base. So I mean, just last weekend, woke up Saturday morning to a text off Carl Pettit to say he'd caught the biggest fish in the lake, 63.11, using the Super Orange. Absolutely phenomenal results. Real nice bloke, Carl is. Real nice bloke. He's done exceptionally well this year using lots of my baits. He hasn't just used the Super Orange. He's used a lot of different baits from me, and he's caught well on all of them. And I was very, very happy for him. It's absolutely phenomenal result. A big English carp, 63 pound, 11 ounce, using the Super Orange. And the same again, he's the only angler on the water using my bait. I'm not going to stress that too much, or it sounds a bit biased, but, the proof is in the pudding. The only angler on the water using the Super Orange. He's caught the biggest fish in the lake, a proper English fish, 63 pound, 11 ounce. And I do believe that is a fish that was even spawned in the lake. It wasn't even stocked. So, yeah. And then, there's another chap, a friend of mine, John, and the year he's had since he's been using the Frankie Mix is absolutely phenomenal. He's on a no publicity water. It's in the Midlands. I mean, there's a few fish in there. Certainly a very rich water, very productive water. And he's broke all records this year. He's had 114 fish, I think, at last count. 114 fish. I think there's over 30 fish over 30 pound. A few 40s to 48, 250s, and both of the 50s that he's caught, both late records and both county records. So these captures, they're not really to be sniffed at. And as I say, I'm very proud of this when you consider I don't sell bait to lots and lots of people. I make a living from it, but there certainly isn't thousands of people buying bait off me on a regular basis. So when you're getting these results off lone anglers on lakes using your bait, it's got to say something about the bait, hasn't it? It's got to say something about the bait. I mean, and John as well, in particular, he's getting very, very quick bites using the Frankie mix. And it's no runs water the lake he's fishing. Yeah, you can get a few bites, but his results have really been standout. I mean, he fishes every week, John does. And he's a very, very dedicated angler. No stone is left unturned with John and his planning. He's a very meticulous angler. He's a good technical angler. He's a good caster. But as I say, these results, as I say, you can't really ignore these results. One weekend, a small company like myself, 63-pound 11-ounce English carp, and then 10 hours later, 56-pound 4-ounce county record, lake record. Very, very good results, and this is why I do the job. It gives me an enormous satisfaction helping people catch fish like this, and that's why I do the job. That's why I do the job. So for anyone who's slagging me off on the internet, I won't name any names. The results don't lie. The results don't lie. And without bigging my baits up too much, they're good baits. I don't scrimp on what I put in the baits. If something's in there, it's in there at a meaningful level. And when I'm getting feedback like this, I'm making anglers very happy with what they're catching. It's the job satisfaction that I want. So yeah, I mean, I think there's a recent capture. Somebody again using the Super Orange. He went to Owen Fen in Cambridgeshire. It's a well-known big fish water. I'm pretty sure that's the first time that the Super Orange has ever been used on that lake. And it was a very, very difficult week when he's been on there. There's a couple of them on there using my bait. And it was a very difficult week. I'm pretty sure there was only 4 or 5 fish out all week. And Dave's had a 41 mirror. So, yeah, I mean, it just shows you that good bait, it works straight away. You don't need introductions, obviously. You don't need teams of you. You don't need teams of you on the bait. So, I mean, whenever I've had the situation where there is teams of people using my bait, then I can honestly say, hand on heart, it's always dominated the catches. And a good bait should do. A good bait should dominate the catches. If it's being introduced on a regular basis, that bait should be dominating the catches. But when you get people going on waters, and there is other people using the same bait, and there's lots of them doing it, and then these people are still getting exceptional results, then that just tells me I'm doing everything right, and the baits are doing the job. I've got the design right, the attraction's right, the palatability's right, and I've got other theories on different things for size of fish, without giving the game away too much. And I'm pretty sure I'm on the right track. And as I say, when I've just had a week like I've just had, a 63.11, a 56.4, both of them the biggest fish in the lake, then I know I'm getting things right. So, these people who are selling bait to a lot more people than me, they can go ahead and slag me off for what I do, small company. But at the end of the day, the results don't lie, and they can all be verified. And as long as I'm earning a living and I'm making people happy, I'm I'm an happy chappy. I mean, it's getting more difficult now. The bait businesses, ingredient prices have risen massively in the last few years, couple of 3 years. So it's getting more and more difficult to make a living from selling good quality bait. But it's still doable. It's still doable. It's still viable. So yeah, I mean, since I've had the website, I'm getting out there a bit more, selling a lot more bait out the area from my local area in Stoke. Don't sell anywhere near as much to local anglers as used to, purely and simply because the local anglers they used to sell to, which were, people who just ring you up for 5 kilo on a Monday and they want it by Wednesday or Friday. Can't accommodate these people anymore because I can't get the bait made quick enough. I'm too busy with people who are prepared to wait for the bait. Word gets out there, so people ring you up or buy things from your website, and if they've got to wait 3 weeks until you can get it done, they'll wait 3 weeks. And I'd like to think that my bait's worth waiting for. And as I say, the results are there. I mean, it's pretty phenomenal, really. In 12 months, last October, Matt Kirkham, the only angler using my bait on Grenville Lake, caught the biggest fish in the lake on his first bite using the Frankie mix. 12 months later, John's caught 56.4 from the Midlands, the late record using the Frankfurter, and the same day, the day before, Carl Pettit's caught a 63.11 using the Super Orange. So there we go. I'm extremely happy to say that my baits have caught 2 English 60s, proper ones. One stocked us a small weight, one spawned in the lake. Proper 60s, not big stockies. They didn't go in at big weights. Proper ones, 2 60s in 12 months, just over 12 months. I'm an extremely happy chappy. Extremely happy chappy. So that's about it, really, as far as I want to talk about the captures. And, I don't get anywhere near as many catch reports these days as I used to when I was selling a lot of bait locally, because I sell a lot through the internet now and people just go about their own business, catching fish and reorder bait. And I'm not going to start ringing people up and what have you been catching and whatever, too busy. But obviously they're catching because they're buying bait. So, yeah. I mean, there's one other thing that I'd just have a quick chat about. This paprika thing. I've seen this business written about paprika on the internet. And what I'll say to you is, got the old Robin Red debate, whether or not it contained this dye, Carafel Red, as it's called. Don't know if it did. I know Robin Red did change 100%. When I first started using it, which was scaling on for 30 years ago when I first started buying Robin Red, and it used to stain everything red. Then it changed and it didn't, but it still made your bait red. But yeah, now if you do your research like I've done into these pigments, the carotenoids, they're present in a lot of natural food, shrimps, crayfish. So in my mind, what was actually happening with Robin Red and paprika, I mean, Robin Red is basically paprika with a few things added, is you're replicating a natural food signal in your bait. These carotenoids, representative of natural food. So you put paprika in your bait, or Robin Red, or chili powder even, or cayenne pepper, and the carp are getting a very, very similar taste experience or whatever other stimulation it's doing with the carp when they eat these things. And you're replicating natural food. And that's what I always aim to do with everything they're doing on bait. Always aim to replicate natural food. There's many, many ways of going about this. Won't give the game away completely. What I will say is spices are particularly effective at doing this, but people won't know what they're doing or what they're replicating without knowing exactly what's in, what they're putting in the bait. So yeah, I mean, hopefully this podcast, it's a blog. Hopefully it's gone down well. Could chat a bit more, but Yeah, I've spoken about everything I'd like to speak about. So yeah, if you've enjoyed it, just let me know. Maybe I'll do another blog in a podcast form. Although I do enjoy writing the blogs, particularly enjoy writing. I'm in the process at the moment of doing my next book. The first book went down quite well. Sold it in, I think it was 13 different countries. So well worth doing. People are obviously interested in bait. Even people who don't make bait are interested in bait, and it gives you the knowledge to know what you're using, why you're using it, and it gives you some knowledge so you can choose what you're going to buy. So yeah, in the process of doing the next book, it's a long way off yet, although I am quite a prolific writer, so I could get it done maybe for Christmas, maybe. But I'm probably aiming at to complete that book, ready for the new year. And I've also been invited to do a chapter in another very prestigious carp book, which was quite honoured to be invited to do. So I'll be doing that, but it may well be a replication of material that's going into my own book. I mean, my own book that I'm going to be writing, it's a bit of a diary style thing at first, because what I've aimed to do is take you on my journey. I'm just a normal carp angler, been fishing for carp since 1988. Got really interested in boilies around about 1994. I'd used them and made them before then, but wasn't really sold on boilies until 1994. And then what I'm doing is taking you on the journey of why I've come up with the theories and ideas that I've got and how I've got to where I am today. So it's a bit of a diary piece, and that I make no apologies for the fact that it details some of my captures, and they won't be the biggest fish in the world, although they were the biggest fish in the lakes that I was fishing. But it gives you some insight into where I am today. So you're joining me on a 30-year journey. And the title of the book will probably be Beyond Fred. That's referring to Fred Wilton, the godfather of boilies, because without Fred, we wouldn't be anywhere where we are today. It's going to be called Beyond Fred, An Unexpected Journey. So hopefully, going to get the book sorted by the new year. It'll be a lot bigger than the first book. So yeah. And as I say, I was very pleased with how the first book went down. Sold it in 13 countries. I didn't sell thousands and thousands of copies of it, but the feedback was brilliant. It's definitely helped me sell a bit more bait. It's got people thinking about things. So that was the objective anyway. So it gave me the impetus to set about writing another book, because I enjoy writing. I've always been very, very lucky in that writing's been easy for me. It should be, because I spent a long time in education. Education was very, very easy to me. I was lucky, but I was gifted with education. Was very easy for me. Life isn't that easy for me, but education was. So yeah, that's it. Just let me know if you enjoyed this podcast, and maybe I can do these blogs in podcast form. But I do like writing, so I think I'll always do the odd blog, written blog for the website. It definitely gets a bit of traffic to the website. So anyway, hopefully you'll have good autumn fishing. I mean, we're still in autumn now. That's another thing. A lot of people think, we're in November now. It's the 1st of November today. Some people think we're in winter, but we're not. We're not in winter until, I think it's December the 21st when winter starts, which a lot of people won't know, but I'm a bit of a stickler for things like that, because I know that spring doesn't start until the 21st of March. So if I catch something on the 20th of March, it's a winter capture. So there we go. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye for now.